At its peak in 1920, the British Empire covered an astonishing 13.71 million square miles, close to a quarter of the world's total land area. It was the largest empire in human history, ruling over 412 million people, 23% of the global population at the time, and accounting for 19.7% of the world's GDP. You see, the British Empire began in the late 16th century under Queen Elizabeth I. By 1913, it had grown to control territories in the Americas, Africa, Asia, and Australasia. India was considered the jewel in the crown due to its vast population, resources, and the role of the Indian Army in British conflicts. The empire reached its greatest extent following World War I, when Britain acquired Germany's East and West African colonies and Samoa. However, every trail has its end. The empire began declining soon after due to economic strain, changing attitudes, and independence movements. India and Pakistan gained independence in 1947, inspiring numerous other colonies to seek self-rule. Today, the British Empire's remnants consist of 14 small dependent territories scattered across the world, and its economy is now a shadow of what it used to be. In this video, we'll try to understand why the economy of the once world's largest empire in human history is now seriously struggling. Did you know that since the financial crisis of 2008, Britain has faced significant economic challenges? Yes, the global financial meltdown hit Britain hard, causing severe damage to its economic growth. However, in response, the British government focused on reducing its debt rather than boosting productivity and demand in the economy. This approach had serious consequences. Real wages in Britain have been falling for 6 years straight, and housing incomes have stayed the same for the past 15 years. To give you a clearer picture, in 2007, the average British household was only 7% worse off than in Norway and 8% less well off than those in the United States. But today, these gaps have widened dramatically. British households are now 18% worse off compared to Norway and 15% compared to the US. In recent times, Britain has faced several significant challenges. These issues have led to the country losing its spot as the world's 5th largest economy to India, and it's not surprising. You see, for the past 30 years, the UK has focused more on finance rather than industry. The government's decisions have often leaned towards saving money instead of investing in services. This choice has led to lower wages and very low production levels in the country. Productivity is very essential for any country's economic growth, because it measures how much goods and services workers produce in an hour. Right now, Britain has one of the lowest productivity rates among developed countries. This means British workers make fewer goods and services per hour compared to workers in other countries. Nevertheless, it wasn't always this way. Between 2000 and 2007, Britain's productivity was growing fast. In fact, it was the second fastest among the G7 countries, right behind the United States, with an annual growth rate of 1.9% in output per hour. But things changed after the global financial crisis of 2008. From 2009 to 2022, Britain had the second slowest productivity rate among the G7 countries. The impact of this slowdown has been significant. If Britain's productivity growth hadn't slowed down after the 2008 financial crisis, the country's GDP per person would be 18% higher today. The challenge of increasing productivity in Britain has been a hot topic among experts. Many analysts and economists have debated this issue, but they all agree that Britain's low investment rate is a major factor keeping this problem alive. Investment is crucial for boosting productivity. When businesses put money into capital assets, technology, and human capital, it allows them to become more efficient, adopt the latest technologies, and improve their employee skills. These improvements lead to the production of better goods and services in less time. However, the UK has been investing very little, especially since the financial crisis. Even before that, in the 2000s, investment levels were already low. This trend has only worsened, causing the UK to fall behind other similar economies. While Britain's spending on research and development, or R&D as a percentage of its GDP, is higher than the OECD average, it still trails behind countries like the US, Japan, and Germany. Moreover, the UK also invests less in other important areas like market research, branding, and employee training. This lack of investment, combined with a shortage of skilled workers, is a major reason why the UK's productivity is lagging behind its peers. Beyond productivity, The UK economic policies haven't been helpful as well. Imagine you're a business owner thinking about investing in the UK. You might wonder why some businesses hesitate to put their money into the UK. The main reason is uncertainty. Uncertainty about the future, both for individual businesses and the UK's economy as a whole. To understand this better, let's look at the past 25 years of economic policies in Britain. Economic policy uncertainty has been a significant issue during this period, and things got even worse after the financial crisis of 2008 and the Brexit referendum in 2016. When the financial crisis hit in 2008, it was a big deal. Banks were failing, and the British government had to step in to save them. The government spent a massive £141 billion to bail out the banks, and they took on liabilities that exceeded £1 trillion. That's an enormous amount of money, showing just how severe the crisis was. To try to keep the economy from collapsing, the government also launched a £31 billion stimulus package. They extended unemployment benefits and accelerated capital expenditure, which means they spent more money on building and improving things like roads, schools, and hospitals. All these actions were meant to help people and businesses survive the economic downturn. Despite these efforts, the financial crisis led to several years of budget deficits. This means that the government was spending more money than it was bringing in. By 2010, the UK's debt had reached about 70% of its gross domestic product, or GDP. To put this in perspective, imagine if you owed 70% of everything you earned in a year. To address these budget deficits, the Conservative-led government implemented austerity measures starting in 2010. Austerity measures are policies that aim to reduce government spending. In this case, the UK government cut funding across various sectors, including the police and road maintenance. The aim of these austerity measures was to shrink the budget deficit and restore confidence in the financial markets. While these measures did help reduce the deficit, they had limited success in boosting overall economic growth. The cuts in public spending also had significant social and economic impacts, affecting many people's lives. Adding to this uncertainty was the Brexit referendum in 2016. The decision to leave the European Union created further economic and political uncertainty. Businesses were unsure about the future of trade agreements, regulations, and the overall business environment in the UK. You see, after Brexit was finally completed, the Bank of England estimated that investment in Britain's economy had fallen by 25% over a 5-year period, up until 2021. This drop was mostly because of, you guessed it, increased uncertainty. The problem with Britain's policy uncertainty goes beyond the government's unwillingness to admit that the country's economic decline is a problem. It actually shows their complete denial of it. The Conservative government keeps telling themselves that the nation's prosperity is still intact. Another reason for UK's struggling economic growth is the decline in real household income. Real household income is crucial for a country's economy because it affects how much money people have to spend. When people have more money, they can buy more goods and services, which helps the economy grow. Conversely, when real household income falls, it can have serious negative effects. It can slow down economic growth, increase income inequality, strain government finances, and reduce savings and investments. A survey by the Resolution Foundation highlights how severe the situation is. According to their report, about 11% of Britons, which is roughly 7 million people, sometimes go without food because they can't afford it. Additionally, 60% of adults, or around 35 million people, are in worse financial situations now compared to the start of 2022. This troubling scenario is tied to Britain's sluggish economic growth. A slow-growing economy not only lowers living standards, but also forces the government to raise taxes to fund poor-quality public services. For example, the education system in Britain is facing many problems. Schools are dealing with financial difficulties and a shortage of teachers, making it hard to provide quality education. The National Health Service, or NHS in the UK, is also facing serious problems. Today, the UK's spending on health per person is lower than in countries like Canada, Australia, France, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Germany. When we compare the UK to other English-speaking countries, we see a very different picture. For example, the average American is 39% wealthier and 38% more productive than the average Brit. Additionally, housing in the US is much more affordable, and young people in the US are in a better financial situation compared to their British counterparts. It's quite surprising to see this decline considering that the UK was once the leader of the Industrial Revolution, a period that changed the world in profound ways. Today, however, the UK has some of the worst productivity statistics among major economies. This is a stark contrast to the past and highlights the challenges the country faces in maintaining its economic standing on the global stage. Historically, the UK has been a powerhouse. Its innovations in industry and technology paved the way for modern economic structures. Cities like Manchester and Birmingham were the heart of industrial progress. But now, the story has changed. Economic policies and political decisions have led to a situation where even with a rich history and vast resources, the country struggles with issues like low productivity and high poverty rates. Economically, this situation is not just about numbers and percentages. It affects real people in real ways. Families are finding it harder to make ends meet. Young adults are burdened with debts, and the dream of owning a home feels increasingly out of reach for many. In comparison, other countries, especially the US, offer a more favorable environment for economic growth and personal prosperity. This disparity raises important questions about the future direction of the UK's economic policies and the need for reassessment to ensure that the nation can reclaim its once prominent position in the global economy. That's all for today's discussion. Do you think the UK can get back on track and become the largest economy globally like it used to be? Tell us in the comments below how the UK government can possibly achieve this. If you found this video informative, please like and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to share this video and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on our future updates. We cover the latest trending geographical and economic news, so stay tuned.